Yeah.
So I think it's just me today.
I think you're right.
I think I'm right. When am I wrong, Rob? All right. Cool. Can you hit record then in the office? I don't think I can.
Yeah, it's recording.
Oh, it's already running. Hi, everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah, excellent. That's just what we want. Me live on YouTube. All right. So today I am talking about sport. This has been a little bit of a long time coming. I actually have to do a lot of thanking to Shane, who's allowed this to happen. He wrote an excellent script that passes both through Help Scout and Tender, and we now have a database of support staff, which means that we can get some really good reporting. It's a lot more exact compared to the methods we were using before because we're using very similar ways to get the data that we need. We're doing it based on date creation of support tickets, so we have some very new support metrics that we can play with. And so this is the support report for Q1. So I'm just gonna go ahead and share. I'm super prepared.
Ooh, wow.
Oh, it's new, it's new. We've got a new template, everyone. Look how shiny and awesome it is. All right. So there are no animations, there are no awesome pictures. I did not have the time, but there are graphs. You have graphs. All right. So let's talk about support for Q1. We are almost at the end of Q2, but that's okay. With all data, it's very similar to the pricing data. It's the best when it's 3 months old, because I am getting information like the amount of responses and answers. And obviously if I got it today versus if I got it a week later, there are different responses and answers. Plus we close off any ticket that's had no activity after 3 months. So our data is actually best when it's a bit older, but I will be doing reports after every quarter. So towards the end, we're not going to have the best responses or answers counts, but we will have ticket counts. So we have a new year and we also have a new model. It's 2017 still, yes. A few structures for support. We've got new areas. Support is put into its little categories. And I've seen, hopefully everybody else has seen, that it's allowed for a lot of focus of our issues and backlog. And it's given better ability for groups of developers to see patterns and fix problem areas. It's been really apparent in quite a few of the different areas where customer complaints have come in, where performance issues have been. I think in the first 2 months of team execution, a majority of communication issues were actually fixed, technical, halibut. I mean, it's given people an ability to say, hey, this is coming up a lot, let's fix it. And that's been a really, really good thing. So let's have a look. We've also got some new goals. We're trying for the year to reduce our tickets by 25%. And thanks to some work done by Shane, thank you again, Shane, we have a new system and I can accurately now track across both systems. So let's have a look at the totals and trends. January, so just to keep in mind, obviously we have 100 more tickets in March than we did in January, but January traditionally is always much lower when it comes to support tickets. It's really hard to put anything around January. It's going to be much more interesting when we get the next quarter in, because January is always going to be lower, and also February is a lot shorter than March. So it's a bit hard to see, but as a trend, we're definitely not trending up. We then can now do things like look at the total tickets per area. So if you can see, there is one team that is definitely taking the lion's share of support tickets, and that is team execution. It's only going to get worse because cloud pretty much has ended up in execution. So those numbers are the next quarter going to be really interesting. But you can see that the way that tickets have been going, execution is our major area of support, and the execution team really is taking a lot of tickets. So I can do things like this now. I can say, hey, what is per area? Is any one area trending down? And the answer from January at least is no. No one team have gone down in anything. There are some months like, you know, cloud kind modeling, you know, went up and then went slightly down. That's potentially a very good thing. But poor old execution is only going to get worse. It'll be something that we see. But we can do this now. We can actually say what are the most hits, and what are the trends in our area? How well are we doing as an entire company? Because remember, even if it's not in your area, there are a lot of things that end up in execution that somebody has changed somewhere else, and execution have to tie up some of the loose ends or fix bugs that have occurred because something has happened. So it's in no way because the execution team, you're all touching deploy, but continuing that we really are going to have a chance to look at and have a go. So what this means is I actually have lots of data. I had a point last night where I'm like, I have so much data, I don't know what to do with it, what's interesting. But what it means is you can actually now come to me and ask what you want to know. So can do almost a full analysis on an area versus like who's answering the most tickets in an area, what that might mean over time. These numbers themselves are from the entire quarter. I can do it weekly, I can do it monthly, I can do it a point in time. I can do things like find what the average responses per ticket are per person. I can do all sorts of things. So if there is any data you want or you're interested in about your area, it might not make sense for some, it might make sense for others. If you're just curious about how you're doing, if you think there's anything we could start tracking to make you better, we have that ability now. So I'm not going to bore you with a really long presentation about I have all this data and some of it's going to interest you because you see your name or you see your area. Some of it might not be interesting to anybody, but it's stuff we can start tracking and keeping metrics on. And all of it should hopefully help us get to our goal of 25%. But yeah, it was interesting. And the average responses per ticket were those are also the people who answered the most tickets in the quarter in descending order. And yeah, Shane had some really hairy ones where he had to respond to a lot of people. So Q2 is not yet done, but almost. We're very, very close to the sort of end of Q2. It's been a little while now. So we now have a different system. So if you'd asked me how the new model was going in Q1, I would have been going, it's excellent, everything's great. If you ask me now, I'm like, well, a lot of people seem to be really busy on feature task force, and that's causing a lot of friction in support. And support is not slowing down, sort of. Like, as you've seen, the trends aren't going away, but we are noticing in execution that a lot of the tickets are now, hey, we've fixed this, please upgrade. And a lot of customers are going, I upgraded and it was fixed. That is happening, and that is a trend now. So while we are getting the same amount of tickets, we either have a gap in documentation or about upgrading or something, but these bugs are mostly now fixed. A lot of it isn't as strong investigation as it was. But the question is, how do we choose between our features and teams? And as you all know, I have an amazing ability to put on a turban and grab a crystal ball and tell you what's going to be happening in support trends. However, what I can't tell you is what's going to happen in a week for any team. So this is the exact same week at the very end of the third quarter where modeling just had like a peak of tickets during that day. Execution obviously had a really easy Wednesday, but the point is I can't tell you any one day where tickets are going to end up. We've had some days where it's just like, I can't believe I've just assigned 15 things to modeling, or same with execution. It's not possible for us to say, you know, you will need this many people on support tomorrow. What it does mean though is when there is a busy day in your area, it might mean you have to stop working on your feature. It's a thing where as a team, you have to say there are a lot of tickets here. Our day-to-day thing that works very well for us has to change today. We all have to get in because we still need to meet our goals of answering things in 24 hours, giving our customers the best support. It's just how the company works. It's what we need to do. It's a goal that we've never wanted to change. So it might mean that what you've been working on has to stop just to help get through this little ticket hump. And by Friday it'll go away. We don't know. Could be as bad tomorrow. But we can't let it build up. We can't, if Thursday had been, well, it was kind of as bad for the modelling team, if Friday had been as bad, what position would it have been in? And that's okay. It's okay. So, you know, Paul and I have talked about it. The scale team is a really good example of it's okay to stop and answer your support tickets and get something out. So our RFC took quite a long time because the support that comes in can take a while, and we have the exact same ebbs and flows as every other team. But answering the support took the priority, and that meant less time could be spent daily on the RFC. But the RFC got out in the end. It was great, and that's okay. We just have about support. So if you have a day where it is, you know, oh, it's modelling Monday, it might be a case of having to assist the person who's doing it. Execution generally do a good job, but I am actually seeing at the moment things where, you know, oh, I'm working on spaces, I can't really take any tickets, and that's not really helping the company, unfortunately, getting our support goals out or helping our customers. So we do have to consider that something that you are working on might need to be put down just to help out with a little support spike in your area. And then tomorrow or Friday, it might be better. And I think that's the end of my presentation. But I do have numbers now. I do have metrics. This one, the next presentation will be fairly soon. Now that I've got my data, Shane's still helping me with a few things. Help Scout is really terrible with its API, and we're having some problems just getting data out without errors. But I do have data now. So if you're curious about your own numbers, how many things you did answer, who's kind of the champion of your team, then, you know, hit me up if you'd like metrics on your teams. It's quite interesting when you get right into it. But that is it. That is all I have to say.